Voilà. So we can listen to Edeltraud Günther, and I give you the stage.
Thank you so much. And I like the quote of Yasmin, where is she? Be aware of what you wear. I think that could be the title of my presentation as well. And also all the other educators already mentioned options for education, and I add one more. Together with colleagues in Bangladesh, we developed an e-learning course that all of you and your students, your colleagues, your friends can take for free. And this is today part of the official launch, where we implement a resource nexus thinking into the textile sector. And if I say nexus, it just means the interconnectivity. Very often we only look at climate change, we only look at waste or only water. It just means all resources matter and they are interconnected. So that's the title of the course, and you find it already online, right, Serena? Yes, my colleague Serena is with me here. She is also closely working with the colleagues in Bangladesh, and you can take it. It's self-paced learning, and for all of you who are educators, reach out to us, because I think the additional value beside the content, and I will give you a deep dive into it, is that you get a certificate of United Nations University. And I think that's something very cool. So we are United Nations University. We are based in Tokyo. Who has heard of United Nations University before you came here? Oh, good. That is unusual. Usually we are not so known. We celebrate our 50th anniversary this year. We have 14 institutes worldwide. And we are, so 13 and one is in the process of opening. So if you are more optimistic, you can say already 14. And guess, what's the 14th institute about? Artificial intelligence. That was also mentioned just 10 minutes ago. And the focus of the course and of our work is the resource nexus. Climate was mentioned. Water was mentioned. If we talk about cotton, if we talk about also pesticides, it's also about biota, so plants and animals. We talked about sheep. We have soil with all the fertilizer, for example. We have the material. We talked about fabrics. That's the cool thing of fashion, that you have innovative material, innovative fabrics, but it's also the downside. How do you generate the material? Mentioned climate already, and of course it's also a question of space. Where does all the material come from, and also where does all the material go to? If you think of the huge waste dumps, for example in Ghana from fast fashion, they call it the white man's disease. So we just export our not used fashion products to Africa, for example. And energy, and these are more like combinations, like energy, waste, food is also impacted on land and on sea. And this thinking is what we implemented in this course. And I really think, having followed the discussions here in this metamorphosis session, it's a perfect fit. And as it's for free and you get a UN certificate, after having listened to the discussions, I think you have to just educate yourself. That was also mentioned via this course. And here just a few examples. So for example, for water, groundwater contamination, biodiversity loss, soil degradation, extensive use of land, for example, and also other examples. Additionally, labor practices globally, what Tamara also said, the person who produced the piece that you can buy outside here for 8 euros, for example, could be a child with no awareness of their rights. And is this what we want? Question mark. Therefore, I think this being aware what we wear is exactly also what we need to integrate into our thinking. So, It's in the middle of the day. I come from Bavarian, Germany. We call this the time of the Schnitzelkoma because we eat and then we get tired. So just a few questions. So how much global revenue does the textile sector generate annually? I just have this as an intro, and will just not ask this question, but just give you an information here. It's 1.5 trillion US dollars. So it's really a huge sector, and you can look into different countries where it's a share of a quarter of the whole industry. For example, in countries like Bangladesh. Therefore, if we think of people and if we think of circular textiles, we also have to be aware if we change this, it has a huge impact on people. It's not only the dollars here, but it really means that it has an impact on their income, on their way of living. And now you can give me a guess. What percentage of the world's greenhouse gases are emitted by the textile sector? Who thinks less than 1%? Raise your hands. No one. 2 to 8? We have a few hands. Good. 10 to 15? Even more. And 20? No, a few. Okay, good. So it's 2 to 8. So it's maybe less than some of you thought, but still it's a huge amount. And that also means if we think of, let's just take 7 or 6 in between, we can have an impact with the textile sector. And that's also something I think that's so important when you educate and that you also get this awareness that even you are one of 8 billion people on that planet, but you can make an impact. It's really about every person making a change. Next question. What percentage of the garment workforce is comprised of women? A, 50%, B, 68%. So again, raise your hands if you have an idea. Okay. 75% and 80%. So it's 68% that are women. And what I learned, for example, in Bangladesh, and I have to admit that I was really shocked, some come from the countryside, they are even not aware that are entitled to salary, because on their farms, they just help the neighbors for free. Then they come to the city and they do not even dare to ask for salary. So these experiences I got when we worked with colleagues in Bangladesh. This is not true for all of them, but some really also need education about their own rights, that you are entitled to get a salary. That's also important. And if we think of kids, they even do not know what a salary is. Fourth question, how much water is used for one cotton t-shirt? 500 liters? 1,000 liters? I think it's always very abstract, those numbers, also for me actually. I also was not correct in some cases. 1,500 liters? And 2,700 liters. So it's actually really 2,700 liters for one t-shirt, and you get it maybe for €3 or something. So that's amazing. It's just insane. So just to have this awareness, and it means really you need water for. It's also rainwater, of course, for the cotton field. It's then water in the production. It's water in the dyeing process, and so on. One t-shirt. So getting this awareness is important also then when we educate designers, when we educate consumers, when we educate business leaders. And therefore, we developed this course, and actually you see me here in a dress from my mother-in-law from the 50s. That's also, I think, circular textiles. What we do here, what we did, we trained academics, so to train the trainers was the concept. We developed courses, online modules, that's the one, and I think, Serena, we have little postcards with a QR code. Maybe you can already distribute it. And what I think is also important, not only to educate the young generation, of course here it's about the next generation, but also establish companies, industry leaders. If someone is 50 or older, like me, for example, we still need to learn. Otherwise, we don't make the change. We cannot wait another 30 years to make a change. And this is the course that we would like you to look into to get an idea. So what is part of this course? And as I already said, self-paced learning. You get this idea about the different resources, climate, water, waste, energy, and so on. How it's implemented in the textile sector, so it's really hands-on. There are interviews. You can also read a little. You have little videos. So I think it's also fun. The social dimension of the textile sector was discussed in the previous panel, is an element, but also reporting when it comes, for example, to supply chain. If you represent industry in the room, for example, also monitoring and reporting is important, and then of course the whole value chain. And so if you are an educator, you can integrate this course in your courses. It's just there for free. You get an additional certificate. If you just want to learn yourself, it's weekend, just do it. And Serena and I are here also to give you some more insights later. It's free, I already mentioned it, and that was already my impulse. And I would like to end with a story, because we said it's 2 to 8% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. And very often when I teach my own students those options for different sectors, and here the textile sector, they say, but what can I do? Then I always tell them the story, and maybe you have heard of it, but it's the story that really for me speaks about education. When a little child was at the sea, and there was the low tide, and there were starfishes all over the coastline, and then the little child threw one starfish after the other back to the ocean, and then an older person came and said, "What are you doing there?" And then the child said, I'm saving the starfishes. So I saved the life of the starfishes. And then the old person said, "But look here, starfishes until the horizon, and look here, starfishes until the horizon. What can you do?" And then the little child took one more starfish, threw it back to the ocean, and said, "I made a difference for this one." And I wish you that you identify your starfish, and wish you all the best, and happy to connect to you. Thank you very much.